Hey, it's Stu Schaefer, and I'm about to explain what exactly this food quadrant is and why diets are failing us. All right, so let's take a step back. Diets suck. They're worthless, they're not healthy, and if you've ever done diets, you realize that you start one, then you stop it, you gain the weight back, and it really doesn't set you up for long-term success. Now, the reason 99.9% of diets are ineffective and they fail you is because they only take into consideration a couple of things which are wrong. This is where we're going to talk about the food quadrant. So the food quadrant is essentially a quadrant that shows that there's actually 4 parts of nutrition that impact the body. And I'll just tell you right now, calories are the least important. And that's the big lie. See, everyone seems to think that you need to be in a calorie deficit to lose weight. And that's not true. That's one way to lose weight. It's the worst way. And I'm going to explain this. Really, the true way to lose weight effectively and permanently is you have to understand your body is an ecosystem. Okay, it's like a rainforest. And what that means is every different food you put in your body has a different chemical reaction. When you combine different foods, that creates a different chemical reaction. It affects your hormones differently. It causes certain enzymes to fire, which can cause you to either burn fat or store fat. This is really how nutrition works. I mean, I'll just give you a simple example of one of my clients that I was working with. I was working with Julia, who is a former athlete, by the way. And again, she was eating healthy. She was eating whole foods, all natural foods. But because she didn't understand this concept and she was counting calories, which blows my mind. You shouldn't count calories. I'm just telling you, that's just the least important part. Anyway, she couldn't lose weight. Well, when we started working together and she understood the 4 parts of this food quadrant, she was able to drop almost 20 pounds in 12 weeks and completely transformed her body. And she never had to cut calories or reduce or restrict how much she was eating. So she was never hungry. She never had cravings, didn't get the low energy, and she was able to maintain her results forever and ever because it was so simple. So let's take a look at this. So what are the parts of the food quadrant? Well, obviously, there's the amount, okay? That would be the calories, the least important part. And this is where all the diets focus on, is the calories. So that's obviously number 1, but it's not that important. The second part is what you're eating, okay? Now that would be something like Whole30 might be a diet that addresses this. Maybe macros to some degree address this. And so this is getting into more about what you eat. Well, here's the problem. This is where 99.9% of diets start and stop. Is either the amount or the calories or what you're eating. These 2 pieces are way less important than the whole other side of the quadrant. So let's look at what's on the other side. Well, the first thing is something called timing. Okay? Now, what's timing? Well, timing essentially is this. Your body changes throughout the day. Your metabolism changes throughout the day. Your insulin resistance or insulin sensitivity changes throughout the day. Certain hormones like cortisol, certain enzymes like leptin and adiponectin change throughout the day. And because your body is shifting through the day, you really ought to eat certain foods at certain parts of the day, but not other parts of the day, to work with your body. Okay? And then the last piece is the biggest. This is the most important right here. This is the combination of foods at each meal. Combination of foods at each meal of all these 4 is by far the most important. Now see, this is where things get really cool, but also a little bit tricky. And now in my experience, which is 20 years now, what I've noticed is most people overestimate their ability to lose weight. They don't actually realize some of the intricacies involved in losing body fat and being able to keep it off permanently while optimizing your health and balancing your hormones. The combination of foods at each meal is vital for this. And I'll give you an example. Some of you may realize this. There's certain things in life where on its own are completely nothing happens. I remember I was in high school chemistry, and the chemistry teacher had two vials of liquid. He didn't tell us what they were, okay? And you're going to know why. So one vial of liquid, they both looked like water. You didn't have any sort of smell to them or anything like that. So you take an eyedropper of one vial of liquid, and he squeezed it into like a paper towel, and you could bang it, you could strike it, you could do whatever you want to it. Nothing happened. He took the other vial of liquid, same thing. Nothing happened. It was just, we all thought it was water. Well, then he did something really interesting. He took a drop of vial A and a drop of vial B, and just one drop, he combined them, and he let them soak into a paper towel, and he let that dry. In about 10 minutes it dried, and then he tapped it with the edge of a yardstick. Boom, and it blew up, and it blew off the tip of the yardstick, which is why he wouldn't tell us what the liquids were. So what happened is, you have food A or substance A, which on its own can be either useless or bad or whatever, and you have substance B, same thing, but when you combine them, it creates this very unique chemical reaction. There's a lot of foods like that, where one food on its own might actually cause you to gain fat. Another food on its own causes you to gain fat, but when you combine them, it creates this unique chemical reaction in the body that actually causes you to burn fat. Aha! Now, I'll give you some of the combinations you absolutely want to stay away from. These are the combinations that actually cause you to store fat, okay? Avocado toast, one of the worst combinations. Macaroni and cheese, one of the worst combinations. Nut butter and toast, one of the worst combinations. Nut butter and fruit, one of the worst combinations. Those are the types of combinations that will actually cause your body to store fat. And this is why it's so important, because, and again, fruit on its own will actually cause your body to store fat. But when you can combine together, now all of a sudden you have this magical chemical reaction that'll cause certain enzymes and hormones to start firing off in your body. There'll be a cascade or a chemical reaction of all these different things that can actually cause you to tone your muscles and burn fat at the same time. It's just it's like magic. The body is not just a calorie in, calorie out mechanism. It's this amazing, wonderful thing, okay? So when you utilize the combination and the timing, now you're getting the foods at the right time of day. Now, this is not intermittent fasting. I do not recommend fasting, and I talk about that in some of my other videos. But this is, hey, have certain foods in the morning versus the afternoon versus the evening. Now, if you use these two, these two alone are responsible for maybe 80 to 85% of a person's results. Then you get into the what, and the calories are almost unimportant. There's only one time, and I've been doing this 20 years. In 20 years, we're having worked with thousands and thousands of clients. The only time I tell a client anything about calories is when their calories are too low. I've never, over 20 years, I've never once said to a client, your calories are too high, we need to bring your calories down. Never said that. I have frequently said, you're not eating enough calories, your calories are too low, we need to get them up. When you're doing these two things especially, but also to some extent what you're eating, obviously, onion rings, for example, be just a very unhealthy food, but still, you can still get away with that if you're doing this correct, okay? But you want to be healthy, all right? This is not just about weight loss, although maybe you're watching and you don't care about your health, you just want to lose weight. In this case, it's all that's important. But if you also want to, you care about your health and hormones and these types of things, and anti-aging, this is important, but this really isn't. So this is why diets fail us. This is why diets don't work. They're all predicated on the calories, which is the least important piece. So you got to understand the food quadrant. Now, in the next video, I'm actually going to talk about the 5 worst diets you can do in perimenopause, menopause, and even post-menopause. The 5 worst diets. But this really is why diets fail. All they're predicated on is calories. And sorry to say, but your body's a little bit more complicated than just calories in, calories out. There's a lot of chemical reactions in your body. You've got to understand these. And when you do, you can eat so much food like Julia did. You can eat so much food and never be hungry and never feel cravings or never feel deprived. Have tons and tons of energy all the time. And you just watch the fat melt right off while toning your muscles. We're not getting that soft and flabby look. This is because of the food quadrant. Anyway, look for the next video. I'm going to go over the 5 worst diets for menopause, which also will include perimenopause and postmenopause. So I'll see you then. All right, take care.